If you've been trying to solve a problem for a really long time and you just cannot figure it out, it might be because you're trying to solve the problem with the wrong part of your brain. Welcome to Accelerated Hypnotherapy. My name's Liana West. I'm a trauma recovery specialist. I was working with a client who was having sexual problems. He could feel there was something going on sexually, and he felt that if he didn't figure out this problem, that it was going to turn into a bigger problem. So he tried therapy for months, trying to figure out what the actual problem was and where it all started. What he realized in therapy was that a couple of years earlier, he had some GI problems that were affected by stress, and he wondered if it could have been that. But he did some things and the GI problems went away. But this other problem that he felt was kind of related, but he wasn't quite sure exactly how, was the beginning of something more serious, and it was getting worse. And the problem was starting to snowball and become more complex because he was starting to feel bad about feeling bad, because it was starting to become a pattern of how he was showing up sexually. And it had been a couple of years, so the snowball was gaining size and momentum as he felt things were starting to go downhill. In our first session, which was about getting clarity, I could tell he was very self-aware. He was looking at himself and doing some deep introspection, and it was impressive how much work he was doing in trying to figure out what was actually happening. But something seemed to flip at one point. It was like thinking about the problem all of a sudden was like pouring gasoline on a fire to try to put it out. And thinking about the problem as he tried to solve it was actually starting to revivify the negative feelings that he had around what was happening sexually. He had tried hypnosis, but the focus was on the symptoms, on the GI problems, on the problems sexually, and he had to share that with another person. That is a whole nother level, pouring another can of gasoline on the fire, because now someone else is also talking about and is trying to figure out your problem. And through all of this, my client was starting to understand something important. As we talked, my client started to get really clear. He realized that he was trying to solve the problem with his conscious mind, and that if he could have solved it consciously, he would have already. There are problems that you can solve with your conscious mind by thinking deeply, by using past experience, by gathering more information about the problem. So you might research GI problems, PE problems, ED problems, trying to bring more information into your awareness to solve the problem. And so you go to therapy and you talk about your problem to someone else to try to get even more insights, bringing more information into your conscious awareness. And your therapist also tries to solve it with their conscious mind. But here's the thing. If you haven't been able to solve your problem with what you already know about it, how can another person with even less information solve it for you? Ultimately, the responsibility, but also the power and the control and all the resources are within you. Therapy is about helping you learn more about the problem. It's about bringing things that are unconscious into your conscious awareness. But with complex problems like this, where you feel bad, talking about feeling bad makes you feel worse. Actually, talking about things is the best way to reinforce them. So if you're talking about something painful and embarrassing, the way to make it even more painful is by thinking about it and by talking about it. My client was onto something when he realized that if he could have figured it out consciously, he probably would have solved it already, because there's lots of problems that he solved in this way. But some problems can't actually be solved with logic, insight, and understanding, because logic can't fix your feelings. It's like when someone uses logic on you when you're feeling bad, and they'll say something like, don't worry about it, or just get over it. That just makes things worse, because If you're feeling anxious and someone tells you to calm down, it doesn't work because logic doesn't soothe your emotions. And something logical when you're feeling emotional can actually make you feel triggered as heck. There are problems that are better left unsaid. You don't have to remember to recover. And if you've been trying to solve them with logic and it hasn't worked, that's probably because it's not the type of problem that you can fix with your conscious mind, logic, and more information. And instead of bringing more information into awareness and thinking about it, which reactivates and makes you relive the anxiety or the pain or the upset, you just leave it where it is. You don't have to dig up the past. Just leave it in the subconscious. Because if you're feeling bad, those feelings are actually in your body. And your body doesn't speak language. It doesn't understand logic. Rather than trying to bring things up into your conscious awareness, you can just leave them down there and work at the level of the subconscious. And we won't try to direct the solution with our conscious mind because that limits the possibilities that the superconscious might have for you. It's like commissioning a piece of art from a brilliant artist, but you're telling them to draw a happy face because that's what you know with your limited skills. And you limit them and you get in the way of letting their genius create from possibility. And that's what focusing on symptoms is like. You miss out on this space of unlimited possibilities when you connect with your superconscious, that your superconscious could access if you stopped directing it through your limitations, trying to figure it out where you're limited to what you know or by what you've experienced. With accelerated hypnotherapy, we're going to get out of the way with our conscious mind. And after my client was able to connect with his superconscious, he was able to slow down and enjoy food and enjoy sex because his superconscious solved the problem, whatever it was, because you don't even have to know what the problem is. You just have to access the superconscious and it will do all that work for you. We both couldn't tell you what the actual cause of all that was, but we don't need to know. It's not necessary to figure it out or understand it consciously. So we just get out of the way and we let the superconscious do the work subconsciously. And then space opens up for a whole new future where the past isn't filling it up with more of the past. When you connect with your superconscious, the answers and the resources that come through are on a whole nother level. If you're ready to level up and access that space of infinite possibilities, drop a heart emoji in the comments. If you need help getting clarity, I've left a link in the description. Subscribe and like this for more information on trauma recovery, and let's connect on the next one.